Hey everyone, this is Anshul, and this is a video on the bridge pattern. And in this example, I'll be demonstrating the bridge pattern using the renderer objects. So let me add the includes over here. We have IOStream, and the second include will be, let's say, string. Okay. Now. Uh, So in order for this demonstration, I'll be using a couple of classes, and let's take the first class, which is going to be an abstract class. We'll call it as struct renderer. Okay, renderer v1. Let's say we'll have a bunch of renderers everywhere. So renderer v1, and uh, let's say this uh, renderer can render different types of objects, and which can be a circle, it can be a square, or any shape. For this demonstration, I'll be using render circle. Okay, so let's call it render circle. Now, a circle will need an X and a Y, and a radius. Okay. Alright, so that's how we will render a circle. And since this is going to be our abstract class, we'll just initialize it. This is a pure virtual uh, class, so I will add virtual keyword here, and yeah, that should. So this is our abstract class. And let's say I have another class which derives from the renderer. Let's call it as rasterize render v1, okay, and it derives from render v1, okay, and now we need to provide a concrete implementation for our render circle, so let's do that. And in this example, we are not exactly going to render a circle. This is simply going to output uh, just a statement which will be, let's say, rendering a circle of radius, and we'll give the radius over here. Okay, and let's go in this line. Okay, so this is our rasterized render, and let's say we have another render which can be a vector render. So this is another structure. Let's call this as vector renderer v1, which also derives from renderer v1, and this will render a circle, and here we will say vectorized a circle of radius. Okay, so this is our second class where we override. So I missed the override keyword over here. Let's get that added. Override here. Okay, so now we have this render class, and now we want to create a bridge. So let's have a shape, a structure called as shape, and shape v1. And in this structure, we will have different types of, circles and squares. So you can essentially derive different shapes from, this particular class or the structure. So, and the shape V1 is going to take, sorry, renderer as, it's as a reference, which is going to be the bridge. So let's say render V1 and reference to render, okay? And let's say we have, two uh, two functions that are provided by the shape structure, which will be void draw, okay? And this I'll set to 0. Again, we will override this, so it is going to be virtual. So this is also going to be an abstract uh, class over here, or an abstract structure, and virtual void resize. And resize can take, some sort of factor. So we'll actually give it a const, float, and factor. So essentially we want to resize by this factor. Okay, so and now we will have, let's say, a circle v1 that derives from shape v1, and here, so let me also give it a constructor. So the shape v1 is going to take a renderer v1 by reference, okay, and it will initialize our renderer. So this is our base class constructor. Now in our derived class circle v1, which derives from shape, we will have these two protected functions implemented. So let's do that. In addition, we will also need to store the variables. So let's call this float x, comma y, comma radius. Okay, and let's say this is our constructor circle v1, which takes a constant float x, const float y, and const radius, const float radius. And this will also take a renderer by reference. So we'll pass in a renderer over here. So renderer v1, call this renderer. Okay, and we will initialize our base class. So shape v1 will be initialized by the renderer itself. And the x variable is going to be initialized by x, y is going to be initialized by y, and radius is going to be initialized by radius. Okay, so this is our explicit constructor. And I think I made a mistake here, spelling, and that's right now. And let's implement the virtual functions here. So we'll have virtual, so we have void draw, okay, and void draw, and here we will, since we have a reference to the renderer, we can actually render the circle. So draw, let's overwrite this, and here we can call render dot render circle, and we can pass in x comma y comma the radius, okay, like this. So um, so here you see the shape object is actually providing it's acting as a bridge to the renderer object. Okay, so and in this case we render a circle, and similarly we will have the second function, which is resize, and we will call this factor, and this will resize. Okay, so I'm going to change, let's say radius is going to change by the factor. So we'll multiply the radius by this factor, right? So this resize will actually resize our the radius of our circle, and then we will print it again. We'll draw, right? So the render circle will give us the value of the radius essentially. So we have the base prepared over here. So we have renderer v1, which is our abstract class, and then we have two derived classes, which is our rasterized render v1 and vector render v1, and then we have the shape v1, which is going to hold the renderer as a reference, and it provides its own functions, which include draw and resize, and uh, circle v1 derives from shape v1, and we have initialized our renderer, and where we can call the draw, which essentially calls renderer dot render circle, right? And then it also changes the factor, and then we can draw the circle again. So let's have our main function, and given the basic arguments, char sorry RGB, and here we will have, let's say, a rasterized renderer. Okay, so we will define rasterized renderer, call this renderer. Okay, and now since we have instantiated it, we can pass this renderer to our shape object. So we will create a shape object, which will be, let's say, circle v1, and let's call this as c1. Okay, and we'll initialize this with the renderer, and let's say x, y, and radius. So we can actually put some values over here, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and since now, so this will initialize the circle. So we have a circle object, and of the circle object we can call c1 dot draw. Okay, so this draw essentially is going to invoke this draw, which invokes the renderer's render underscore circle. So you see it's acting as a bridge. So draw essentially calls the renderer's render underscore circle, which will render the circle in this case. Okay, and then let's say we change the size. So I will resize this, c1 dot resize, and give it a factor of 3, and then I will call c1.draw. Okay, so this is it. We have the whole flow prepared, and we are ready to run this now. 0. Now let's see how this works. All right, great. So here you can see, rendering a circle of radius 4. That's the first one, and then rendering a circle of radius 12. So this is how the bridge pattern essentially works. You can use different classes or different types of objects to create this similar pattern. So I hope this gives an idea on how the bridge pattern is supposed to work. And it's a very simple example, and maybe in the future I can make something more complex. But yeah, this is a pretty simple and straightforward example. So this is it. And let me know if you guys have any questions, and I'll be happy to answer them for you. All right. So thank you so much. Have a nice day. Take care. Bye bye.